Adam, what can you share with us?
I went to mass. That's pretty supernatural.
You know what?
Yes.
Yes, that's like an easy pass. Yeah. That's the most miraculous thing. So
Um,
Now we
besides
know
Actually,
that,
Adam was a smart one in the
he's
classrooms every
clever.
year. Yeah.
I I remember a few years ago. This is relating now to the supernatural stories. A few years ago, a friend of mine, they're a couple, Matt and Mary. This is when I was living in New Brunswick. Well, Mary was from New Brunswick, and Matt, her husband, was from Nova Scotia. So her husband wanted to go visit his parents, his family over in Halifax. So it was about a 4 hour drive, and they didn't have a car at the time. So I offered to drive them to Halifax. And we got to Halifax. We were planning to stay for the whole weekend. In the middle of the weekend, I think it was a Saturday, we went out. We went out that night, and we come back home that night and settled in. And I realized when we got back, I didn't have my car key. Like we drove back, and then my car key was missing. I had no idea what happened to it. Goodness, we looked everywhere, all over the house for that key, that car key, and we couldn't have gone back home, obviously, without the car. So we were kind of worried about that. So I had a devotion and still do to St. Anthony. So I did ask St. Anthony for it to find this car key. Prayed to St. Anthony before I went to sleep. And then the next morning, there was a knock on their door, and I was still upstairs. And someone came to the door and they said, it was a woman, and she said, I was driving down the street and I drove over something. It wasn't significant, but I felt something on my tire. But I was going to keep going, but something told me to stop. So I stopped the car, got out of the car, and looked behind the car. And she says, I drove over this car key, and something told me to come to this house. And Matt said to her, he said, you got to be kidding. He said, my friend who's here visiting, it's his car key. He was missing his car key since last night. And he prayed to St. Anthony. And he said, it's incredible that you came here. She said, I don't know why I came here, but I had to come here. So anyway, he came up to upstairs to tell me that this, the story that she had found the car key. And then, yeah, I was just, wow, I couldn't believe it. So
What a relief.
yeah, it was incredible.
What a great story! And I always go to Saint Anthony when something is lost, and
Hmm.
he never fails. He never fails.
No, no, he doesn't fail. He's very quick to respond, I find.
So,
Yeah,
okay, that's cool. St. Anthony. So he's a patron for you.
yeah, for sure.
St.
Amen.
Anthony, pray for us. Amen. Okay, let's see. Next, Elizabeth, do you have anything that you'd like to share?
I don't know, like the supernatural that I ever experienced, they're always very scary. We had a few things happening to us, like in our family, moving into a house. It was infested, the house,
Mm,
and we never experienced anything like that. And at that time, like the things that were happening to me, happening to us, like, my son, it was probably like a few months old, and I was putting him to sleep. And usually, like when they're little, you can lie, like you can put them, like you put them on in the middle of the bed and just lie next to them for them to fall asleep. And I felt like someone was watching, like looking at me, like I thought it was it felt so real, like it was just, I thought that was probably, I don't know, anyone in the house, my husband, my daughter, I don't know. And but then it became, I started to feel really annoyed, and then I just said, "What?" And I just turned, like, halfway, and I just with my hand, because I wanted to see who it was. And I turn and just, with my arms, it's just trying to reach whoever's there. Say, "What?" And when I turn around, there was no one there. But at the same time, at the foot of the bed, I see this horrible, like, I don't know, it's just like massive hand, like it was just like so big and so deformed, and I felt like it pushed me, and I tried to grab, like I turned to, pick my baby up, and I felt this hand touch my ribs. And I
Oh
just
my
like,
goodness.
oh my goodness. And then I just that was the beginning of like, and a lot of and that was just like a really full on. I just was not mentally ready. I just had no knowledge of anything that, yeah, scary.
So to try and flip that, have you had any like good experiences to cancel out that one that you shared?
Well, I like the good experience. You know what? I always felt the presence of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. That image in my life from when I was living, when I was little, all the way to now, I understand that something I know now, I've learned that, I think the Sacred Heart of Jesus, I always had that image in my head. So I always feel that presence.
What a nice blessing, though, to feel the presence of the Sacred Heart of our Lord.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, a nice consolation.
yeah. His face. Yeah.
Wow. Who's next? Maya, are you up to talking or is your throat pretty scratched up?
Hello.
Hey, Maya. Oh, we
Oh
hear
my
from her
goodness.
now. She's alive.
I'm alive. Just a little,
I
cracked.
forgot what you sounded like.
Well, you know who has a lot of these stories are police officers. They run into some really scary stuff. And I have a story here from my uncle, who was a police officer. And he was doing patrol. He did night shift and he had a partner at this time. They went to investigate, what do you call it? A health check? What's it?
Oh,
To make
welfare
sure the
check?
person, yeah, welfare check. And he knew it was bad news because he could see the flies on the windows. So they went in, and of course, they found the body. But then they went to search the house, and his partner went upstairs because it was like an upstairs loft or something. The partner said, "There's something really not good here. Something not good at all." And the partner was just like really feeling weird. And so my uncle started to go up the stairs and he felt the same thing, only not as bad. So my uncle is he goes to church every Sunday, he prays his rosary, all that. But the partner, I don't know if he did or not, but so they both went downstairs because they cleared it because it's just a loft. But there was something upstairs. And he said, I felt like something was watching us. And so not long after that, within the year, his partner, now the person in that particular case who they were doing the welfare check, had committed suicide. God rest his soul. About to
Lord
share
have
this
mercy.
person. Um, so not long within the year, his partner committed suicide.
Oh no, Lord have mercy.
And it was like he was the weirdest thing. And my uncle says he says, I'll never forget that feeling. It was just like you wanted to get away from it. So whatever was up in that loft, he said it just felt like pure evil, pure hate. And I kind of know what he meant by that. So here's my little story. I was 11 years old and I had a really bad flu. The babysitter was there and she was really a holy woman. I mean, she would say so many rosaries. She was praying with so many rosaries. And so I was asleep and she was sitting in the couch and I was asleep on the other couch. But suddenly this ugly thing came in front of my face. And it was just snaring at me. And that didn't bother me. The bother part was that I felt that hate. I just wanted to get away from it. It was like my soul just did not like it. I just wanted to get away from it. But I couldn't wake up. I couldn't wake up. So the lady said, I raised my hand while I was sleeping and I was doing the sign of the cross. And as soon as I finished it, I woke up. And I felt so relieved. It was like I didn't feel that anymore. I was like, oh, so that was that one. So years later, say 20, 30 years later, I was sleeping and again, I was like in a light sleep. Just when you're about to fall asleep and you're in a light sleep. And then I felt something hover over me, that same feeling again. But this time it touched me, where it was actually moving my body side to side. And then
Oh,
something told me, don't open your eyes. Don't open your eyes. And I was like, okay, okay, don't open my eyes, and it was just, I could feel it trying to examine me. And then it just went. And I was like, okay, do I open eyes now or do I just sit here? So I was frozen for hours, and I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? You know, um, and not a few days later, I woke up with scratches all over my face.
Oh,
Literally
mhm.
scratches all over my face. And I
Right.
have no emotional things. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not a cutter or anything like that. And I called my priest and I told him, I said, I don't have anything wrong with me. Honest, I didn't do this. And I went over to see him and he goes and examines me, and he looks at my face and he just like, okay, tell me what happened. I said, I don't know. I fell asleep. I woke up like this, and literally they were all over my face. There wasn't a place in my face that I was not scratched. And I
Mm.
was like, what is this, So then he gave me some blessings and stuff, and we prayed the rosary and stuff. But I never had anything physically done to me since then. I upped my prayers, I upped my rosaries, I upped everything. And it was just like, again, that feeling of pure hate. You just can't stand it. You just can't, you want to get away from it, So it's just the weirdest feeling.
What about
But,
Thomas? Thomas, do you have anything to
hmm.
share?
Oh,
Yes,
Thomas.
I think we need to have something positive now.
Yeah, bring it on.
In the 1990s, I had flown out to Scottsdale, Arizona, where there were alleged
Ooh,
apparitions of the Blessed
yeah.
Mother. I've never been to Arizona. It's my first time. We got to the airport, got the car, and we're heading to the hotel. And instead of going to the hotel, I asked my friend to drop us off directly at the church instead of going to the hotel. So we were three of us, and my friend Paul, my prayer brother, he was a Carmelite, and I'm the tertiary Franciscan. So we went directly into the church. It was a beautiful church. It was St. Maria Goretti. And I walked in the church, I knelt down in front of the altar, and all of a sudden, I was completely enveloped with the scent of roses. And I said, "Gee,"
Oh,
I said to my friend Paul, "Boy, the air conditioning here really smells really, really good." I said, "This is incredible." I said, he just looked at me and said he smiled, and I said, "Do you smell anything?" And he said, "No, I don't smell anything," and and went on for a couple of hours. We went back. They were having a 5:30 mass, and went to mass, and at communion, I received communion, came back to my seat, and again it happened. It came through my nose, my mouth. I was completely enveloped with the scent of roses. And I turned to my friend. I said, "Do you smell it now?" And he shook his head, yes. And then he told me what it was. I had no idea because it never happened to me before. And ever since then, I've never, ever put any kind of cologne on or anything like that because I never want to miss that smell again, that scent of roses. It
the
was
scent of
absolutely
roses.
extraordinary. And it happened, and I spent the whole 2 weeks, I spent most of my time in church, and they had this beautiful adoration chapel. It was completely enclosed in glass. And in the center was the Blessed Sacrament. It was open 24 hours a day. And we used to go at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and there would be people there just adoring the Jesus in the most blessed sacrament. And it was so just a beautiful experience that I never have forgotten.
That's beautiful, Thomas.
Yeah. And
Wow.
in addition to that, I have received about I'm not I received about 22 messages from heaven
Ooh.
through a visionary who was a good friend of Mother Angelica. And Mother Angelica used to call her Padre Pio because of her special gifts. And we had a cenacle, Father Gobi cenacle, for 12 years. And there are two people in our cenacle who knew her, this woman named Barbara Bowler. And I said, I have something heavy on my heart. If you ever get a chance to talk to her, just tell her, I'd like to speak to her. About just about a year or so later, I got this phone call on March 25th, 2004, the Feast of the Annunciation. And she said, "Hello, this is Barbara Bowler." I said, "Well, who are you?" And then she told me I forgot all about it. And she said, "I hear you have something you want to talk to me about." I said, "Yeah, I kind of do." And I told her what it was. And she said, "Well, do you have a crucifix?" I said, "Yes." In fact, I have that one with me right here. I said, "Do you have holy water?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Do you have a pad of paper?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And she said, "Well, can you get a pen?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Just in case." I said, "Okay." And so she listened to my story and she prayed with me. And then she prayed in tongues. And then she said, "Wait." I said, "Wait for what?" She said, "The Blessed Mother is here." I said, "You're kidding." She said, "Be quiet." And then she began to speak. The Blessed Mother began to speak and she began to tell me what she was. And it was incredible because she was telling me things that only I never met this woman before in my life. As I told you before, I didn't know who she was. I never met her before, but the Blessed Mother told me things that only I knew. And every time we prayed the Divine Office, then we prayed the Rosary, and then we also did the Stations of the Cross. So during the message, the Blessed Mother said, "When you do the Stations of the Cross, know that I walk with you, Jesus walks with you, and the holy angels and saints walk with you." No, she didn't say Stations of the Cross. She said stations. When you do the stations, and I said, "Barbara, stations." And I was so taken by it because Barbara never knew I did the stations. The person who was giving me the message, she had no idea what my prayer life was like. And she said, "Each tear you shed is precious to me, especially those times you shed tears for my son Jesus, because during the stations, I cried about one of the stations, and the Blessed Mother noticed that, and that was another thing. And my paper when I was writing was just full of teardrops, and I had to recopy it because um, it was hard to decipher. So after I recopied it, I put it away because then Blessed Mother asked me for a commitment, and she said to me, "I want to ask you," and she said, "I want you to give me your yes." And I said yes, and I wrote down exactly what she told me to write. I thought I did anyway. And I put it away, and I said, "Paul, here, just make a copy, and I'll take it to church and read the message in front of the Blessed Sacrament." So he gave me the message, and I looked at the message, and I said, "Paul, Paul, come quick, come quick. There are three words added to the sentence that I wrote, and it's not my handwriting." So when Blessed Mother asked me for this commitment, she asked me to enter in a mission of love to pray for those who have not picked up their crosses. She asked me to pick up them in their place. And she asked me if I would do that, and I said yes. And what she said to me was, "Say your yes with me." And I just put down say yes, and I left out your yes with me, and she added it into she had somebody added anyway. I had to be during the night because I was fast asleep, and when I showed, and it was a different handwriting, and I was just amazed. I just couldn't. I couldn't. It's inexplicable how I felt. It was just
Well,
amazing.
Thomas, your story of the roses reminded me of a story. It's kind of a comical story that happened to me a few years ago when I was living in Calgary. And my parish had a little tiny chapel, adoration chapel. It sat maybe about 12 people. And one day I was there with I was there with two other women. One of the women I knew, she actually had been to Rome like a couple of weeks before this when we were at the Adoration Chapel, and she brought me. Um, Before I tell you, she brought me back a rosary from Rome as a gift. So we were in the chapel with this other woman. I think she was sitting in the very front. I was in the middle, and the other woman I knew was in the back. And all of a sudden, the woman who was sitting in the front, she started saying, "Do you smell it?" She just came out of prayer, and she just said, Do you smell the roses? That's so strong. I can't believe it. It's a miracle." I'm smelling these roses. Can you smell it too? And I'm like praying my rosary. And the woman who brought this rosary back from Rome was sitting in back and she started chuckling. I looked back at her, she started chuckling. And I'm kind of like trying not to laugh because I was praying the rosary, and the rosary that the woman brought back for me, my friend brought back from Rome, was one of those rose petal rosaries. And it was just brand new out of the box.
Oh, gee.
So we had to let this woman down. We had to let her down.
Oh,
And say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm glad you're smelling, but this rosary here, this just came, out of the box, and it's one of those rose petal rosaries with rose." And she was like, "Oh."
oh, it's still beautiful, and we need
That's still a
truth.
good story.
So,
And well, maybe
so in the YouTube chat, Daniel Menzies says, "What do you think about the Pope saying the Anglicans and Catholics are one?" It's bullshit. I'm sorry to
Mhm,
Mm.
swear, but that's what it
mhm.
is. I'm sorry, it's bullshit.
exactly. It's not true, and
I'm not going to
it's
try and
not
twist
supported.
around and interpret what he's trying to say. No, it's BS.
I'm just tired
Period.
of the double
It's almost
standard.
Joey.
heretical. It's
I'm
almost
just
it's really heretical. The Anglican Church was built on Henry's you know murdering of his wives. I
Well,
mean,
and then
it's
the Anglicans massacred us. You're going to tell they don't even believe in transubstantiation. Like that's like when
no,
the
Mm.
popes say that Jews, Muslims, and Christians worship the same God. No,
mhm,
that's
we
that's not
worship the
true.
totally
Holy
true.
Trinity. They
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
acknowledge the Trinity. Anyway, sorry, Elizabeth, what were you going to say?
No, no, because I know because you are knowledgeable about these things. Like, this there's someone close to the Pope. I think I don't know if it was Pope Francis who appointed him, but apparently he wrote two books that are
Uh-huh.
an abomination. And I'm thinking, what is it? Because
That's the guy in
just to
charge of our Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. They
Yeah, it's
changed the
that
Fernand. It's
is
title.
that is
Fernandez.
really,
Fernandez.
yeah, I don't know, before 2020, I think when 2020 hit the, I don't know, I just started trying and got really close to God. And I feel like, the my in the last 6 years or so, that's when my attention in the most important thing, right? That's why I don't know a lot of things. When you guys have been, walking and knowing, like, for years and years and years. So for me, that's why, like, last night or this morning, I think it was that I was listening to um this person talk about how is it Cardinal Fernandez?
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that,
that's it.
I
Uh-huh.
think, is that from Argentina? Is that the one? Because yeah, because apparently, and I said these two books are like, I don't know, it makes me sick that this, like, he described a
Hmm.
little bit, and it was just like how,
Yeah, they're very impure.
yeah, and I'm thinking that that's hurting God, like, just I don't know, just I don't, these are the things that I don't get.
I don't think
It's
God's
horrific.
going to. I don't think God's going to wait much longer to lower the
Something
boom.
have to happen, but it was
I,
just really sad. It broke my heart to hear
Hmm.
this.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss. If you don't know what's going on in the church, you're a happy
Yeah.
Catholic.
But it's shocking though when you start
Yeah.
slowly, so what, and it just really shakes your, core because, yeah. Anyway,
Well, and some people will leave the church because of stuff like that. Again, the church is on the pathway of the passion. She's getting
yeah,
Exactly.
yes,
scourged and
don't,
crucified
Exactly.
and beaten,
Exactly.
Just as
yeah,
Judas, one of Jesus's own, betrayed him, just as
yeah,
Peter denied him 3 times.
Hmm.
So too
yeah,
have our popes lately been denying him, and
yeah,
Judas
Hmm.
is everywhere. But
And
that
his
yeah.
does
mother.
not mean we leave the church, though.
there was only one apostle that remained, and that was John.
Yep.
John,
All the
And
love,
John
others
was
yeah,
there,
abandoned
the
Christ.
one that
the
loved so
Every other
much.
beloved, the
bishop, every
beloved
other bishop,
apostle.
and they were all a bishop.
Mm,
They were all bishops, and
Yeah.
they all
mm,
abandoned Christ when he was hanging on the cross. So only John
mm.
was the only faithful bishop at that time. But yeah, going back to the Anglican, saying that, I mean, isn't that a slap in the face to the Anglican ordinariate as well? I mean, they
Absolutely, it is.
joined the Catholic Church as Anglicans to be Catholic,
Mhm.
and then the Pope goes and says that we're all one. So why did the Anglican ordinariate why did Pope Benedict even,
Yeah.
establish that at all if they were all one anyway with the church? I mean, It's
I,
so much contradiction all the time.
Pope Francis said God wills different religions. He said that.
Mm.
It sounds like they
And
Yeah.
never read the Bible,
He did
because
say
St.
that.
Paul himself says every god, every idol,
Mhm.
every idol is a demon. Every god, like every
Yeah.
is a demon. So
Yeah.
basically, he's saying, he's reaffirming that God desires, or God wills the worship of demons.
Mhm.
Mm.
if God willed all religions, there would be zero reason for Jesus Christ to come and die for us.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But
Mm.
if you say that
Absolutely.
to anybody, you're going to be labeled as rigid and, oh, you're
Ridiculous.
intolerant and blah, blah, blah. But
Mm.
anyway, you know who
We
else
should
was
be
rigid?
intolerant
Our
something,
Lord
but
was rigid. Our Lord was
yeah.
intolerant.
That's right. He
Yeah.
So,
overturned the
Yeah.
tables in the temple.
yeah, we're,
Contrary to like people, a lot of people think, oh, oh, God is love, He forgives us, He's this and that. But He never said, hey, when He saw something or someone, He was strict. It's so true, and people don't. It's like they ignore that part. They say, no, 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 Jesus is love, and Jesus is like God forgives,
he's a
and all
hippie.
of that. Yeah.
He admonished the sinner.
Well, and
Mm.
another thing people love to quote is, let he who has no sin cast the first stone. But then
Mm.
Jesus also says, go and sin no more. He doesn't say, yeah, you can keep living in sin. No, he says,
Yeah.
go and sin no
No
more.
more,
Sin
right?
no more.
Mhm.
But anyway, no. So again, the Pope saying Anglicans and Catholics are one, I proudly say bullshit on that.
Mm.
Mhm.
And Lord have mercy. And I'm not going to, and
Yeah.
people are going to say, oh, remember with Pope Francis, they kept saying, oh, it's mistranslations. Nonsense. We have an American Pope now who speaks English.
Yeah, he speaks English. That's right.
So there's no
Yeah.
excuse for all the people. But
Yeah.
anyway, we have to
I,
pray for the
yeah.
Pope
We need to
always.
pray. I mean, this is because at the end of the day, when we do, have to, I don't know, God is gonna ask us, did you
Mhm.
pray about it instead of complain? Did you pray for him? Did you pray for the
Yeah,
church? Did you pray? Like, that's where we, and our job is just love our enemies,
that's
and
our
love
test.
them, so exactly. So we need to be that John to be able to remain.
Every time yourself.
Oh,
Do
from
you have
me.
any stories?
Oh, I got a couple. Um, okay. Okay.
I
I'll
was just
share.
going to ask you.
I've got like I think three or four. So the one that had the biggest impact on me, I'll share that one first.
Mhm.
So this would have been in 2011, 2010, thereabouts. And I was connecting dots regarding my ancestry and stuff. Again, I've said stuff on here. Everybody kind of knows what my situation was. But anyway, I was like severely addicted to sex and pornography and all that good stuff, right? So, but I sat down and I was realizing, wait a second, where did I get all this from? It's like my father, he always had this stuff everywhere. And when I was a kid, I mean, of course, I'd find everything and I'd watch it. So I was watching porn at like grade 3 or so.
Mhm.
And then I would find his father, when I'd go to my grandparents, I would find magazines and stuff. And when I went to Portugal, I would find my great grandfather would have like these pornographic playing cards, like hard. When I say porn, I'm not saying naked ladies or ladies in lingerie. This is hardcore stuff that kids should not see. So
Mm.
anyway, I was connecting, like, wait a second. It was like, you know, I have a brother and I'm the one with these issues. My dad, he has a brother, but he's got all these issues. I noticed it is the firstborn male on that one side of the family. And I don't know what it was. Something came over me and I felt, I don't know, it was weird. I started writing a letter. I just felt this bad thing come over me. And I wrote a letter saying, if anything bad happens to me or if I'm like dead or something and you find me, this is a connection I was making. And then I felt this really bad feeling come over me. Anyway, so then that night, I went to bed and um, I'll just say, like, before this, I don't see stuff, and if I do, it's just this one thing. But anyway, I was in bed and the lights were off, and relaxing, and then all of a sudden I saw at the bedroom door, and I wasn't sleeping or dreaming. I know the difference between that. My sleep is very interesting. But But there was this black shadow thing forming at my door, and even though the lights were off, I could see its outline. It was black, and it was maybe 4 foot tall. It didn't
Mm.
have any distinguishing features, but it had an outline almost like porcupine quills
Mm.
or spikes or something. That's what the outline was, but it was all black, like there was no face or mouth or anything. But I'm laying there and I looked at it and I was surprised for a sec, and then I felt as though it was laughing at me. Even though it wasn't laughing or making noise, it didn't have a mouth, but I felt as if, someone's laughing at you, trying to make you feel bad about something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sprinted up towards the head of my bed, and I jumped to the foot of my bed and I screamed the loudest I had ever screamed in my life because it startled myself. I don't like I'm kind of a quiet guy, and this I probably shook up the whole building. I screamed really loud, and my first thought went to Saint Michael the Archangel, and then Saint Joseph, and I started saying the Saint Michael prayer, and then it kind of froze there, and it started to recede back into like shadow or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it never did come back. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime thing, I guess, and but it scared the hell out of like I had to go stay
Mm.
at my friend's place after that. Like, can I sleep on your couch? I'm too scared to go home. So I had to have the lights on all the time, and it's just very unusual for me because I hear about people going through stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, like maybe you're just having a weird dream or something, but I experienced it and I thought if that was a dream, like it almost killed me. I almost had a heart attack. So that was one bad thing, I guess. But it's just funny. I had that premonition the day before, like, oh, so I felt like I stumbled onto something I should not have stumbled onto. Another spooky one. I was
Oh,
in Portugal. This would have been in 2003, I believe. I was at my grandmother's house, and my bedroom was right next to the kitchen, and my grandma's bedroom was right beside mine. And it was like 3 in the morning suddenly, and everybody in the house heard it. Suddenly, we heard this loud, like crashing noises as if somebody was in the kitchen, literally throwing every dish and plate and cup, smashing it on the floor. It woke us up. It was so loud. It was terrifying. Like, is somebody in the house? We kind of look and there's nothing there. Nothing is shattered. Okay. We're like, well, that was so weird. It was so real because I didn't just hear it. My grandparents heard it in the other room, and it was in our place. Well, the next day, my grandma goes to open the cupboard, and she's got her dishes. In between a stack of dishes was one plate that was ground up into a powder.
Mm.
It was the weirdest thing. It was all the other plates, nothing else was touched, despite all that noise. Nothing else was touched except this one plate between a bunch of other plates. It was like fine powder. It was crushed. And first thing my grandma said was, "Oh, brujeria." I'm like, what? She's like, witchcraft. I'm like, I guess it's
Yeah.
something. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't do this last night. You didn't do it. We're the only ones here. So, I mean, that was kind of spooky. And that's also the cemetery. I mean, Portugal is a very superstitious country too. But there's a cemetery not far from the place. And I remember sometimes we'd walk by and somebody would leave a tray with like a plate of food and a glass of wine and a candle at the cemetery gates every couple nights. So that kind of freaked me out too. Nothing happened with that, but I thought, oh wow, there's people that do stuff here. Wouldn't be surprised. Something positive now. The roses thing that y'all are talking about happened to me once. Okay, so this was back in Manitoba. I used to do a lot of stuff at the church there, and my friend was the secretary. And this isn't good, but I used to pull pranks on her or try to. Sometimes I'd go into the church and I'd put a bit of holy water on the eyes of some of the statues. And I'd be like, hey, hey, get over here. You got to see this. Statue's crying.
Oh,
And she's like, what? I'm like, look, St. Rose. This was St. Rose de Lima. Look, St. Rose is crying. But she would like she never fell for it. She'd like, okay, is the ceiling leaking? Is this happening? She's like, okay, no, then you did it. Like, yeah, okay, it was
yeah.
me. But anyway, one day I walk into her office and I could smell roses, like really fresh, like really, really fresh roses. And I thought maybe she was wearing like a body spray or something that women wear or uh, air freshener or whatever. And she's like, I said, what's that smell? You got something new on. She says, I'm not wearing anything. We're not supposed to really wear any. scents at the church here. I'm like, oh, you got like an air freshener? Or is your window open? And she's like, no, what are you talking about? And I said, you don't smell that. It's like free, it's like roses in here. It's so strong. And she had no clue what I was talking about. She didn't smell it. And it lingered for a bit and then it just disappeared. And it just blew me away. But this friend of mine, she's so holy. Like if anyone was going to be a saint that I would know, it would have been her. And so I think the smell was to show maybe her level of sanctity or something. Because it sure wasn't mine. So, but I smelled it and she didn't smell it, but and I never smelt it since, it was so unmistakable. And yeah, it
It
was
could have been
nice.
St. Rose. It could have been
It
St. Rose.
it could have been St. Rose de Lima saying, okay, you want to play pranks with my statue? Here, Lord forgive me for that. But anyway. And I'll just share one more final thing. Well, yeah, one more thing. Okay, this took place maybe 2, 3 years ago. It's when I was kind of in another homeless situation, and I was given money so I could get a motel room for a night or two. I think I was there 2 nights,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I was doing okay with being in a state of grace for the longest time, and then in that motel room that night, I had a fall with it, and I felt just so horrible. I just felt like giving up on everything, like what's the point of any of this? I'm just going to keep sinning over and over and like I can't get
Mhm.
out of this. And
Mhm.
I remember I was kneeling at the bed and I just started weeping uncontrollably like a baby, man, like
Mhm.
snot dripping everywhere, tears like it was disgusting. And I was at my wit's end. I thought I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I don't know. I was laying. I had my head laying on the bed, and I was on my knees on the floor, and just kind of talking about all this stuff to God, and like I'm sorry, but I don't know how to fix this, and it's like it was the weirdest thing. I felt as if like I could kind of picture it. I felt as if someone was placed. Oh, I got goosebumps now. As if someone was placing a crown on my head, and
Mhm.
it was very light. Like I could feel it, but obviously there was nothing there. But it was the most remarkable thing. Like it felt like there was something on my head, and I pictured a crown, and I just suddenly felt better, and I felt okay. I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay. I so then that's all it was. There was no like apparitions or noises or messages or anything. It was just the feeling of I could feel a crown placed on my head. And that kind of just gave me, I guess, the courage to get back to confession the next day and just get back on track, and because when you fall out of grace, it's so easy to stay out of grace.
Mhm.
It's hard to it's just hard. It's really
But when you're
hard.
yeah, but when you're trying not to fall, when you're trying, but you do fall, and you do have a very sensitive conscience, then that's when you feel the pain, and then that's when you start the sobbing and the penance and the
And I'm always reminded I can never remember the numbers. I think it's from Proverbs. A just man falls 7 times, but he rises up again, whereas the wicked will stay in their ways. I'm
Mhm.
like, well, that's it. We just got to keep getting back up, as hard as it is, just keep getting back up. And I see it as like, because I used to see it as when you sin, it's almost like, okay, back of the line for you now. You got to start all over again in grace and whatever. And it's like you're climbing up a mountain, then you got to go all the way back down to the mountain and start over. But then I started seeing it in a different way. I started seeing it as because Jesus took our place on the cross, when we fall, he takes our place in line. And so when we get up,
Yeah,
he saves our spot for us.
yeah, yeah. It's not a game of snakes and ladders. It's just
Exactly.
there's no snakes, there's just ladders. But when we do fall, we just stay on that one square
Yeah.
until we keep going, until we repent, go back forward again.
And if we can envision it that way, it makes it a lot easier to get back up and to keep staying the course.
Well, look at it, snakes and ladders. Who is the snake? Satan. Satan will tell us we're going back to the bottom again, and that's where we should
Exactly.
stay. It's a
There
lie.
you go.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's listening, if you've fallen recently, get back up.